Good morning, guys. Welcome to this Friday, May 16th. And the market is popping. Not popping, but it's trading higher. We are taking out the highs in the overnight. That's a good start of the day, at least on a Friday. Let's see if they can keep that going. Let me see. Not a whole lot of news to drive the market today, but we do have a little bit. At 8:30, we get housing starts and permits and import-export prices. At 10 o'clock, we get consumer sentiment. And that's it. That's all I have in terms of news today. So 8:30 and 10. And I think probably the consumer sentiment number is going to be the interesting one to watch. Yesterday was an interesting day. We had started off a bit of weakness. Looked like they were trying to cut off the selling, or they cut off the buying early on. Looked like we were in that stage two to cut off the selling. And then the whole thing turned around and we started extending again. So I guess we are back in that stage one right now, still extending to the upside. And we had a pretty good move going up here. We closed actually above that 25 level, and that was very positive. So we started off on the long side of the market on the ES, and so far we have not traded below that 25 level. So we're in a pretty good spot to extend here. We're heading up towards the 59, 60, 65s. Next attractor or resistance area. Well, it's an attractor, and it's probably going to be resistance area as well at the 6,000, 6,020 here. Find pretty good resistance up here, and it's also the mode of this 90-day distribution is there. So that's a pretty good area for potential market to stall a bit. But starting off this morning, it's going to be easy. You're going to start off from the long side of the market. Look to buy weakness at this point against the 59.45s, the 35s, 25s for rotations back up. The trade below the 25s, take off the long bias, go back a range band, and we're back in this lower range again. So we'll see if this overnight is for real. But the fact that yesterday's day session managed to hold above this and close, I mean, it could be, this guy's could be, yeah, it's a tad bit lower like that. That's what I wanted. So they want to cover that big ledge right there at the 22. So 22 to 25 with regular 25 area here. If that comes out, we're back in that lower range, and then we are most likely back range bound. So looking to buy against early weakness, 45s, 35s, 25s for rotations back up. And on the way up, not going to be very aggressive at this point. If you're still extending, we'll see how these edges are as we approach them. We're getting pretty close to that 60, 65 area. And it's coming right up here. And then we have 80s, and then we're getting up to that 6,000s not too far away. So if we have a good day, we can be up here at the 6,000s by the end of the day. That would be a pretty good close on a Friday. So market is trying to take it higher, and we're going to trade it from the long side of the market to get started. All right, so that's how it is on the long side of the market. Not going to be very aggressive, as I said, on the short side if they start extending. Could also be short setups in there. You know, when the market extends a little bit too much, you always get a little rotation down. Those are the things you can potentially trade, but I would look for more scalp trades in those scenarios. I would favor the long side of the market, at least to get started today. All right, so that's the ES. Looking at the NASDAQ and the bonds. Bond market kind of creeping back up again. So they remember these guys were they were probing pretty hard to the downside. And as I said at the time, my capital flow in the bonds. So at the time they were heading lower here. We were looking at basically rotation out of bonds into equities. And that's probably most likely what happened, because they took out that lower edge, but it's right now they're right back up again here towards the tractor at the 114s. So not the whole not too far away, but I would start off on the long side on the bonds, looking to buy weakness 1322, 1322s, 1617s, 10 to 12 here for rotations back up again. The trade below that 113.10, I will be back range bound again, and the trade below 13 back on the short side. We have a nice little single print at 29 here. that comes out, they start trading below that, definitely stay on the short side at that point. But it looks to me like we are back in the spot here. They probe to the downside. We are back heading back up to value. So this whole little move to the downside most likely had to do with rotation out of bonds into equities. And that's a good sign. That to me, that just means that these guys are realizing that this run is not the bear market pop that we're thinking. It's actually for real, and it's just going to keep going higher from here. So that's the bonds. Nasdaq also in a pretty good spot. Not as good of a close as yet as the ES. The Nasdaq were way up here though. They extended pretty good, and then they backed off pretty hard as well. They closed right shy of that 21,400. So we started off range bound on the Nasdaq right there in the overnight. We are back up above the 21,400s. So I would start off again on the long side on the Nasdaq. Looking to buy weakness at this point against the 420s and the 360s for rotations back up, and they trade below that 360s. I would be back on the range bound side of this. So if this probe now, this little move to the upside in the overnight, it holds on, good. If they can't hold it, we trade below the 360s on the Nasdaq. We're back at range bound in this range again. Now Nasdaq is going to find a small attractor here at the 570 80s, a little bit to go to get there, and then we have a nice volume edge here at the 21,800, 780 to 800, and that's going to be a key area to take out. That comes out, we are on our way, guys. At that point, we are on our way. Look at that. The highs are right here at the 22. Right here. We can even see it on the F1, the highs on the Nasdaq. So we may be after making new highs here in no time. So that just tells you the whole freaking sell-off we had in April was all fear and market actors running the market, and now we're right back up again. So I would start off on the long side, hook to buy the 420s and 360s for rotations back up. On the short side, on the Nasdaq, I still have a potential for short against the 480s, potentially the 520s. Not going to be super aggressive on them, but they're definitely there, potential short setups. And if they can't, both of them comes out, just stay on the long side at that point. Excuse me. That was a sneeze. So 480 and the 520. So if they take out both of those, just stay on the long side and see how far they can take it. All right, so that is the Nasdaq to get started. Finally, oil and gold. And here you have, this is, let's touch on oil first, because that's a pretty easy one. And I forgot to roll this guy to the, crap, I forgot to roll it. I'm going to roll this one for the next update. But yeah, I'm going to roll the micro, just so you see what I'm doing there. So I'm going to roll the MCL to the next expiration, right there. So rolling that guy while we're waiting for this to roll. Looking at gold. So gold did something very interesting. They took it way up there, and yesterday's retracement was nothing but spectacular. They took it all the way back up here to the attractor at 3230s and higher, and then they have pretty much collapsed after that, and then right back below that low volume area again, heading lower, and almost retracing the whole yesterday in the overnight. So go figure. So gold, yes, it's gonna trade gold. Just put on your big boy pants, because that's gonna scare you to the core. This stuff is moving, and this is some significant action going on here. So I would love to get on a short trade on this one and see continuation down to that 3,000 level. But these bars, as you can tell, these bars right here is like 56 up to the 60 is like 10 points on gold. 10 points per bar, 3-minute bar. That's how crazy this is. And I'm trading with a 40-tick stock, so 4-point stop on my end. So I had to have perfect trade location for this to even work. Otherwise, I'm just going to get run out of my trade. So I'm not trading gold right now. I'm just going to watch it. If I can see a really good setup, I may take it. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit on the sidelines on gold. But I would trade it from the short side. So look to sell strength, 3170s. Let me see here. 3170s, 3180, 72, 82, up to that 31.94 and the 32.05s. Rotations back down. Now it starts trading above that 3200 again. That's where your low volume area is right there. So above that 31.95 and the 32.05s is going to be the key area. So on capital flow, you see it right there. That's your 32.05. That's where this support area runs out. So they support all the way down, hit that 32, then they run into the low volume area, and that's when they blow through that like that, you know, on the way up here, you're going to find that 31.95 area and that these two key areas of resistance. If they come out on the way back up, we are back to what this high volume area, but I will be looking for short setups all the way up to that 32.05 level. Rotations back down again. So, and then we'll see how this goes, but it is a pretty crazy gold market. So, as I said, I'm going to sit on the sidelines. I would love to be able to engage it, but it's a little bit too volatile, even for myself. And then oil. So right now you see that the F2 is on the June contract. The July contracts is trading at 61.18. The June contracts is trading around 61.60. So a little bit lower, 50 ticks lower. So I would start off range bound, and they are pretty much trading in that 62 range again. If anything, I would may start with a slight bias to the downside, given that it's trading lower. But I'm gonna have to cycle back on that update. I'm not gonna be aggressive on oil anyway at the rollover. So I would just wait for a day or two to pass, get a little bit of volume in the July contract first. So trading July oil right now. All right. So back to the ES, and I think those are the market's going to be more interesting in ES and Nasdaq as today, actually, if they can keep this going. So if you can keep this little momentum going on the upside, and that could be pretty interesting Friday. So but we got news at 8:30 and news at 10 to contend with, but that's how we get started. So long side of the market for the ES and Nasdaq and the bonds, short for gold and range bound for oil. Alrighty, guys, we'll leave it there. So good trading this Friday, and I will see you back at 11:30 for the next update. All right, guys, later.